Subscribe. I only do this for you, and turn on your notifications. Let's go.
I fuse a little bit the issues in outside. Yeah. No, that's one from yesterday. Yeah, one no na make like you make audio, Senna, for say the situation don't change. You understand? The situation don't change. Many will appearance then, the rest assured that when they work, when they allow the embassy, we don't get to una, don't get to it, we don't get understanding, and we work together.
So if you heard that, he was asking one of the students or some of the students to lie about what is going on in China. This is devastating that you have so-called leaders, instead of solving the problems, they asking people to lie. Keep watching.
Now, first of all, China-African relations are very, very solid. And for some politicians in the United States to accuse China of practicing racial discrimination against Africans is really a fallacy. We all know how poorly and terribly have been the racial discriminations practiced by the United States against African Americans, and we call for a stop to such racial discrimination. Secondly, now in China,
so hold on,
still
Victor,
very much in the middle of the fight against the
Victor, one second.
coronavirus.
Victor, one moment before we get to point 2, which I will let you get to. Let's go back to point 1. Yes, there is racism in the United States. I am an African American. That is separate and apart from what I asked you about what is going on in China.
That is exactly why I would say the U.S. politicians can do a better job in fighting to contain the spread of coronavirus in the United States, rather than, for example, falsely accusing China of practicing racial discrimination against Africans.
Victor,
we all treat African brothers and sisters as they are. We have high respect for the Africans.
Victor, let me try again.
By such false accusations, Victor, things have changed. We are not in a normal situation. We have massive amount of quarantine, lockdown, constant taking of temperatures, constant checking of your IDs, your passports, for example. But all this has a purpose. That is to cut off the spread of the coronavirus. And anyone should abide by the rules and the regulations. Many of them are very alienating. Some of them are very intrusive into privacy, as we normally understand. And I would say everyone, Chinese or non-Chinese, Asians, Americans, Europeans, Africans, etc. In this fight against coronavirus, we are all in the same boat. So let's listen to what the government authorities have to say. Let's always carry our ID card. Let's always be willing to have our temperatures taken. And if they want to take our testing, to the testing, because you are doing this not only for your own good, you are doing this for the good of the whole community.
Okay, Victor.
So I would urge everyone in China to abide by the rules and regulations.
Your point is well taken, absolutely.
So the issue now is about people not doing what they're supposed to do, which is very false. This whole thing about victimizing victims is something that a lot of satanic people do. Instead of them solving the problem, they make the victim become a victim once again. Yes, people should abide by the law. Yes, people should make sure that other people are safe, but at the same time, address the issue. You're going to see a lot of Chinese people really apologizing, people that have a heart and soul and are probably believers, apologizing for the appalling thing and the racist act of some Asian people in China. But then you have this so-called African leaders who are apologizing for their own people being mistreated. This is wrong, and God is against injustice of all kind, and everyone will be judged. Watch and see.
That the authorities faced is that they did not want to have many people living together in one flat. So you're right about that. And so they were put in a situation where their instructions which were interpreted as eviction, which were really about social distancing, because they wanted people to live in individually and or the right number of people in each flat. So you don't have too much crowding, because you cannot deal with social distancing and you can't deal with the spread of COVID-19 when there's too many people living.
One of the Nigerians who was asked to be confined and taken to hospital, shown to be positive, refused to be tested. Got into the hospital, having been positive, and then wanted to leave after a week. And they tried to restrain him, and he bit the nurse, the lady nurse, and assaulted the nurse. Of course, this did not help the situation either. So we are on top of the situation. I have to express our profound gratitude to the ambassador of China here in Nigeria. He acted immediately and reached the most important elements in the Chinese government hierarchy. The reaction of the government has been very, very quick, and so they're now working together as a team. It's unfortunate that the government in Guangdong.
This man is lying. Can you see how unconvincing he is? He just is like, look at him. You could tell he's lying.
Shanghai and Beijing. But now that communication has been established, and they're now working together as a team, communicating and letting everybody know that these measures are to assure the safety of the Nigerians as well as everybody in China, and in particular in Guangdong province where this outbreak.
Africa is strong. 非洲加油
Africa is strong. 非洲加油
Africa is strong.
当前国际社会
Under the current situation where the international community urgently needs to work together and fight against the epidemic, it is irresponsible and immoral for the U.S. side to make those remarks and sow discord. We urge the U.S. to focus on containing the epidemic at home. Its attempt to drive a wedge between China and Africa's relationship will never succeed.
针对近期
In response to the recent African side's concerns regarding their citizens in Guangdong province, the Guangdong authorities have already conducted an investigation and taken a series of new measures. We believe that the issue will be properly solved through the joint efforts of China and Africa.
For us to go out there as foreigners, is the fear, or maybe I don't know if that's too strong of a word, maybe not, the fear or concern of a second wave of this happening, is that palpable there? Is that something that you all really feel there, Gabriella?
Definitely. The second wave is something that we're all worried. Everyone is taking the necessary precautions. People are still using the masks. People are staying indoors. Not so many people are on the streets, but once in a while, people moving around. And like today, I actually asked for permission to go out and take a walk. And most shops were open, and there were a lot of Chinese out there. But definitely, everyone is still taking the necessary precautions to keep safe.
These so-called imported cases are actually Chinese citizens returning to China from abroad. But the way it's been interpreted by many people is that these are foreigners bringing in the disease. And so therefore, foreign diplomats have been told not to come to Beijing. Foreigners in Beijing have been under an increased level of scrutiny. And foreigners, particularly in Guangzhou, and especially African foreigners, have been subjected to this higher level of scrutiny, suspicion, anger, and discrimination in Guangzhou. There was indeed a case where I think several Nigerians went outside of quarantine, went to a restaurant and infected people. Since that happened in Guangzhou, there has been widespread discrimination.
Subscribe. I only do this for you, and turn on your notifications. Let's go.